Welcome to the Deep Dive. We uncover those hidden layers of knowledge together, and today we're diving into Vivaldi's The Four Seasons.
The Four Seasons.
It's been captivating audiences for almost 300 years. I mean, think about it. It's 4 violin concertos. Each one is a season: spring, summer, autumn, winter. You probably already know that.
Right.
But what makes it so special, I think it's the sonnets that Vivaldi used to go along with the music.
Mm-hmm.
He paints these vivid musical pictures. We're not just going to learn about the music, though, right?
No.
We'll also uncover some secrets about Vivaldi himself and see how the Four Seasons is still influencing us even today.
What's really interesting is that Vivaldi was composing during the Baroque period.
Yeah.
So this was a time when music served both religious and everyday purposes. It was a time of just great artistic innovation. And a lot of the composers were commissioned by churches and courts
Oh, wow.
and wealthy patrons.
So music was just a part of life.
Yes.
Yeah. Tell me more about Vivaldi, though. Who was this guy?
Well, Antonio Vivaldi was born in Venice back in 1678.
Okay.
And that was a city brimming with art and culture.
Right.
He was actually an ordained priest, which is interesting.
Right.
Because, he composed over 500 concertos, 46 operas, and countless sacred works.
Wow. The Red Priest?
Yeah, he was called the Red Priest because of his red hair.
A priest and a composer. Where is he composing all this music?
He was a violin teacher at the Ospedale della Pietà.
Okay.
This is a Venetian orphanage for girls, and it was renowned for his music program.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of his most famous works, including the Four Seasons, were composed specifically for the young female musicians at the Ospedale.
That's amazing. It just adds another layer to the music, knowing that it was written for this specific group of musicians.
Right.
I wonder, did it influence the sound of the Four Seasons at all?
It did, absolutely.
Yeah.
Vivaldi was a master at writing for the strengths of his performers. And the girls at the Ospedale, they were incredibly skilled string players, particularly violin. So he took full advantage of that. And he created music that just showcased their virtuosity and pushed the boundaries of what was possible on the violin.
I've always thought that spring is the most, emotionally complex out of the 4 concertos.
Oh, interesting.
There's this beauty there, but also kind of like hints of darkness and drama.
Mm-hmm.
Was that intentional?
Absolutely. Vivaldi wasn't just trying to depict pretty scenes.
Right.
He was trying to capture the whole essence of each season.
Okay.
And spring, yes, it's rebirth and new beginnings, but it can also be a time of unpredictability.
Right.
And remember, each concerto is inspired by a sonnet, and Vivaldi probably wrote these sonnets himself.
Okay.
And the sonnet for spring talks about the joy of birdsong, but it also mentions sudden storms and the threat of thunder and lightning.
Wow. So he's using these contrasting musical ideas like the joyful melodies and then those sudden dynamic shifts and the dramatic scales to really capture, I guess, the full spectrum of what spring is.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes Vivaldi's music so compelling.
Yeah.
It's not just this surface level beauty.
Right.
He's exploring these deeper emotional nuances in each season, even within just a single movement.
I never thought about it that way. It's like the dissonances in spring, they're like foreshadowing. That's the storms that are coming in summer.
That's a great observation.
Yeah.
Vivaldi was a master of using musical techniques to create tension and drama. And you really see this in summer, where he depicts the oppressive heat and the anticipation of a thunderstorm.
The sonnet for summer mentions specific birds.
Yes.
Like the cuckoo, turtle dove, and goldfinch. Does he actually depict them in the music?
He does. It's remarkable how specific Vivaldi gets with his musical imagery.
Wow.
For example, the cuckoo's call is represented by a descending minor second interval.
Okay.
And it's repeated over and over.
Yeah.
And it creates this sense of both beauty and unease.
It's like those insistent bird calls on a hot summer day.
Exactly, when everything feels still and heavy.
Yeah.
Vivaldi was a very keen observer of nature.
Right.
And he used his music to bring those observations to life. He doesn't just tell us about the heat. He makes us feel it through those slow, languid melodies and the almost suffocating stillness of the music.
Yeah, and then he unleashes the storm.
Exactly.
In that dramatic third movement.
The third movement of summer is pure sonic drama.
Yeah.
He uses rapid scales, intense dynamics, even aggressive bowing techniques to depict the fury of the storm.
Wow.
He wants you to feel the force of the wind, the crash of the thunder, the stinging impact of the hail.
It's incredible how he can create such a visceral experience just through sound.
Right.
You're transported to that moment right there in the middle of the storm.
Yes.
I can't wait to dig into autumn and winter, but I guess that's for the next part of our deep dive.
Yes, we'll get to those.
Okay. So we're back. We're diving into Vivaldi's The Four Seasons, and we just finished exploring spring and summer. All the incredible detail and emotion. What about autumn and winter? I'm ready.
Okay, well, autumn takes on kind of a different character. It's full of celebration and energy, but also there's like a touch of melancholy, I think.
Right.
Reflecting that shift from the abundance of summer to the coming chill of winter.
I've always thought the first movement of autumn is the most joyful out of all of the concertos.
Oh, interesting.
It makes you want to dance, What was Vivaldi trying to capture in this movement?
Well, it's all about the harvest celebration.
Okay.
The sonnet describes the peasants dancing and celebrating, all the crops that they've gathered. And Vivaldi captures that festive atmosphere with these really lively melodies and dance rhythms. And he even throws in some fun musical details.
Oh, like what?
Well, there's this one section where the music gets a little wobbly, almost tipsy sounding.
Okay.
And the sonnet mentions people drinking and becoming, drunk with Bacchus's gifts. So Vivaldi actually depicts that drunkenness through slurred notes and kind of uneven rhythms.
It's like he's giving us a little wink.
Yes.
Showing us the more raucous side of the celebration.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. He had a sense of humor.
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then after all that revelry, he provides a moment of repose in that second movement.
Okay.
It's a beautiful contrast.
Right.
Depicting that quiet stillness of, sleep after a long day of feasting and dancing.
Like after Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah. That feeling of contentment.
Yeah.
And then the third movement bursts back with energy, depicting a thrilling hunt through the autumnal countryside. Vivaldi uses hunting horn calls and galloping rhythms to create this sense of, excitement and urgency.
I love how he captures all those moods, The joy, the abandon, and then kind of like the more introspective moments, and then back to the energy of the hunt.
Exactly. And that brings us to winter.
Okay.
The final concerto, and perhaps the most stark and dramatic of the four.
The first time I heard winter, I was struck by how different it felt from all the others.
Yeah.
There's a real sense of coldness and isolation, but also this incredible beauty.
Right.
How does he achieve that?
Well, he uses a range of techniques to create that icy atmosphere.
Yeah.
He uses shivering string tremolos and harsh dissonant chords to depict the biting wind and freezing temperatures. And then there are these sudden shifts in tempo and rhythm, almost like you're slipping on ice.
Wow.
Yeah, it's very evocative. You can practically feel the chill in the air.
But even in that coldness, there's a sense of warmth and comfort in the second movement. How does he do that?
Well, the second movement is all about seeking refuge from the harshness of winter.
Right.
The sonnet describes finding warmth by the fire while rain falls outside. And Vivaldi captures that feeling of, cozy contentment with this beautiful, soothing melody supported by gentle pizzicato accompaniment, almost like the crackling of a fire.
It's like a break from the intensity of the first movement.
Yes, exactly. And then the final movement brings us back out into the cold. We hear driving rhythms representing the howling wind and those sharp, piercing notes, almost like ice cracking underfoot.
So winter is all about this contrast between like the harsh reality of winter and this human desire for warmth and connection.
Exactly. And that brings us to a broader point about what makes the Four Seasons so enduring.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it's brilliant, full of technical skill and artistic innovation, but it also taps into something universal, I think.
What do you mean?
Well, Vivaldi captures those fundamental human experiences, the joy of springtime, the languor of summer,
right,
the celebratory feeling of autumn, and that quiet introspection of winter.
Yeah.
These are experiences that transcend time and culture, right?
That's why we still connect with this music centuries later.
It speaks to the cyclical nature of life, the ebb and flow of the seasons, and how those external forces affect us internally.
So the Four Seasons isn't just popular with audiences,
right,
but it's also had a huge impact on other composers and musicians.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Vivaldi's influence can be heard throughout classical music history.
Wow.
He was a true innovator. And his contributions to the concerto form really, really paved the way for composers like Bach and Mozart.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to see how the Four Seasons continues to inspire musicians even today.
Yeah.
There have been countless adaptations and reinterpretations.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, I know.
from jazz versions to rock interpretations to electronic remixes. I mean, just a few years ago, Max Richter, he created a stunning recomposition of the Four Seasons, blending Vivaldi's themes with these contemporary soundscapes.
Oh, yeah. Love that one.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's just one example. I mean, there's so many artists out there who are taking Vivaldi's music and making it their own, proving that the Four Seasons remains as relevant and inspiring today as it was 300 years ago.
It speaks to the power of this music. Yes.
To transcend time and genre, but beyond the musical influence, there's also the cultural impact of the Four Seasons.
Yes.
I mean, you hear it everywhere.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's used in films, TV shows, commercials. I mean, you name it.
Yeah.
And that's because the Four Seasons has this incredible ability to evoke very specific feelings and imagery.
Like spring is always used when there's new beginnings. You know, hope, optimism.
Yes.
And winter tends to be in those moments of drama or isolation.
Right.
Or danger. Even.
Yes, you're right.
And the individual movements, they're so recognizable.
Yeah.
So it makes them even more effective.
Yes.
It's like Vivaldi created this universal language of emotion through his music. And we as listeners just instinctively understand it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It makes you realize how much power music has to shape our emotional experiences.
But there's so many different recordings and interpretations out there. Where do you even start?
Yeah, that's a great question.
And I think the key is to approach the Four Seasons not just as a piece of music to be listened to, but as an experience to be savored.
I love that.
Yeah.
How do you mean?
Well, take the time to really listen to the details, to the way Vivaldi uses the instruments to create those incredibly vivid images in your mind.
You're right.
Read the sonnets. Let them guide your listening.
It's like a musical treasure hunt.
It is.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to explore different interpretations and recordings. I mean, every musician brings their own unique perspective to the piece.
It's not just about hearing the notes. It's about feeling the emotion.
Yes.
Experiencing the story that Vivaldi is telling through his music.
Exactly. And most importantly, don't be afraid to let your own imagination run wild. Let the music transport you. Think about how each season makes you feel.
Right.
What memories or emotions does it evoke for you?
I think that's a beautiful way to sum it up.
Yeah.
Vivaldi's The Four Seasons, it's like an invitation to connect with the music on a deeply personal level.
Yeah. And that connection, that emotional resonance, that's what makes it so timeless.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and universal. But we're not done. There's still more to uncover.
Right.
So let's move to the final part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
where we'll talk about Vivaldi's lasting legacy and what we can learn from this incredible composer. So, we're back for the final part of our deep dive into Vivaldi's The Four Seasons.
Yeah.
We started in Venice, and we've kind of gone through the centuries, all the way to how it's still affecting us today.
As we wrap up, I want to leave you with a thought that's been kind of echoing in my mind throughout our whole conversation.
Okay.
You know, we talked about how Vivaldi translated the sonnets into music, capturing these fleeting moments of nature
Right.
and the emotions that they evoke.
Yeah.
But what if we flipped that perspective? What if we started listening to our own lives as a kind of musical composition?
That's interesting that they're finding the hidden melodies in everyday life.
Exactly.
You know, the rhythms and the harmonies that we don't even notice.
Precisely. Think about the sounds that you encounter every day. The clatter of a train, the rustling of leaves, the laughter of children playing, the distant hum of traffic. These are all musical moments just waiting to be discovered.
Right. Little compositions all around us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like turning our everyday experiences into a symphony, a constantly evolving soundscape.
And our lives also have those different movements, right? Different tempos, different keys.
Absolutely. There are moments of joy and moments of sorrow, moments of quiet contemplation and moments of just exhilarating energy.
Right. It's all part of the composition.
Exactly.
So if we really pay attention, we can appreciate the beauty and the complexity of our own Four Seasons.
Yes. And I think that's one of the most valuable lessons we can take from Vivaldi. He teaches us to be present.
Right.
To notice those subtle shifts and changes in our surroundings and within ourselves, and to find the music in it all.
It's a beautiful way to approach life with curiosity and wonder.
And who knows, maybe it'll even inspire us to create our own music,
right?
Our own unique expressions of the world as we see and hear it.
That's a beautiful thought. So Vivaldi's legacy, it's not just in the concert halls.
No.
It's living in the hearts and minds of those who are touched by his music.
That's the power of a true masterpiece. It transcends time and place, sparking something within us that continues to resonate long after the final note has faded.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Vivaldi's The Four Seasons. We hope it has inspired you to listen with new ears, not just to Vivaldi's music, but to the music of your own life.
And remember, as you go about your day, keep listening, keep exploring, and keep finding those musical moments that make up your own unique symphony.